Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Pastor Tim Westermeyer, the senior pastor here at St. Philip the Deacon, and it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you here to the fifth and final installment in the 2018-2019 Faith and Life season. Am I on, by the way? Is my mic on? Can you hear me okay? All right, good. I always do like to ask at the outset of these, how many of you have not been to a Faith and Life event before? Wonderful, excellent. Well, special welcome to all of you. Thanks for coming out on a rainy night. And for those of you who have been here for a long time, welcome to you as well. As I mentioned, this is the 16th season of these events. If you followed us for a long time, from the beginning of the series, what we've tried to do is invite people who self-identify as Christians, typically not theologians or pastors, but lay people. So these are authors, they're doctors, they're politicians, they're bloggers. We've had a few athletes come and just talk about the intersection of their life and how Christianity informs it. It's a pleasure to be able to offer these services or this series to the community, and I'm delighted all of you took time to come out tonight to be part of it. I will have other thank yous later after we hear from our speaker, and I will tell you as well that after his talk, there will be an opportunity for some open mic Q&A, so be thinking about things you may want to ask him. As I mentioned, over the 16 years of the series, we've had a handful of professional athletes. Actually, our speaker tonight is the second professional golfer. Hillary Lunke came years ago. We did a Q&A with her. But Tom, of course, is a Minnesota native. Many of you may know his story. He coached for a little bit at the U of M. I don't know if he's going to talk about this tonight or not, and then decided that coaching golf at the university and renting skis during the winter was not quite what he was called to do, so he decided to chase his dream and made good on it in lots of ways. And in addition to being a very talented golfer, of course, he's a wonderful human being who's done a lot of good for the world. I do always ask our speakers if there's something that's a little atypical or off the beaten path that you might not know about them. Tom had a little difficulty thinking of something, but in the end he decided to tell me a story. I'm laughing because it involves his brother Jim, who's a dear friend. Jim will give you equal time a little later, okay? But Jim's also a very talented amateur golfer, and what Tom said is that the last time they played competitively was in 1967 in Grand Rapids. That was the last time that Jim beat him, and he has not beat him since. I don't know if that's true or not. Jim, would you agree? No? Yeah, okay. Anyway, we are delighted to be able to present tonight Tom Lehman. Will you help me join him?
Well, thank you. No, I think, Jim, was that right? 1967, the five-hole championship? So, okay. 1968. Oh my, well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Tim, for inviting me, and to Jim for helping me to get here, and actually, I think, encouraging me to come and do this. It's such a pleasure to see everyone here tonight. I'm looking at this brochure, and it says Faith in Golf Lessons from the Back Nine. Okay, I'm on the Champions Tour now, and it's like this is very applicable to me. Lessons from the Back Nine. Just as an FYI, people have asked me over the years, like, what's the difference between the Champions Tour and the PGA Tour? And well, aside from the age, which is the obvious one, I said, I'll tell you the difference. So my very first year on the Champions Tour, I was 50, and we're playing in Tampa, and we got to the 17th hole and walked off the 17th green, and there's about a 300-yard walk between the 17th green and the 18th tee. And so my caddy and I walk off the green, and we're on our way to the 18th, and this young woman kind of falls in alongside of us. I mean, I'm going to guess she was probably in her early to mid-20s, and attractive, and she started kind of chit-chatting with me on the way to the tee, and she was kind of pushing this conversation forward pretty quickly, and I was getting a little uncomfortable looking at my caddy. I'm like, and she finally comes with the question, "Are you married?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am married. I'm very happily married to a great woman, Melissa, and I have 4 great kids." She says, "Oh, darn. I wanted you to beat my mom." That's an absolute true story. So that's the difference, you know. But like I said, I have an incredible wife, Melissa. I met her at Pebble Beach in 1984 when I was playing in the Bing Crosby tournament, a blind date set up by Lauren Roberts and his wife, Kim. And we have 4 kids, Rachel, who's 28, Holly, 26, Thomas, who's 24, and Sean, who's 16. He's a sophomore in high school, so that's very blessed to have a great family. The last time that I was here in Minneapolis that had any real significance, we come here and spend the summers here, and we have a great time in Alexandria, but the last really big, significant event that I was at previous to this one was the Ryder Cup, 2016. Was anybody at the Ryder Cup? Yeah, there's a few folks, yeah. So, to me, match play is great. Match play is phenomenal. Ryder Cup is sensational. There's the pressure and the nationalism and the nerves, and so you play singles matches and you play best ball matches and you play alternate shot matches, and so I do have one really good alternate shot story for you. However, it doesn't happen to do with the Ryder Cup. It just happens to be a format in the Ryder Cup. So I was playing with my wife in an alternate shot golf tournament, and if you don't know what alternate shot is, it's like it sounds. You just take turns, and so if I teed off on the first hole, then she would hit the second shot, and then I hit the third shot, and then hers the fourth. You alternate until the ball's in the hole, and then whoever teed off on the first hole, the other person tees off on the second, and you alternate. So you just alternate shots. So my wife is a very, very, very poor golfer, and with the emphasis on very. And so I said, I'll take the pressure off on the first hole, and I'll hit the tee shot. It's a club tournament. It's like a couples thing. So you're playing with all your buddies, but you still want to win, right? So we get in the first tee, and I just down the middle, kind of a typical drive for me, put it out there in a good spot, and she gets up and she just kind of skittles it off to the right into the edge of the desert. We live in Scottsdale, Arizona, and so she's just in the edge of the desert, but not too far from the green. And I get in the little bush there, and I kind of in between them, and I kind of chop this ball out, and it goes onto the green about 15 feet from the hole, and so now she's got a 15-foot putt for par. And she gets up in this 15-footer, and I line her up, and just, bam, she knocks this thing 20 feet by, minimum. So I line it up and plumb bob the whole thing and roll it, boom, into the hole for a 5. So I walk into the next tee, and I'm kind of mumbling and grumbling, I think. She heard me saying something under my breath. She said, "What's your problem?" And I said, "Well, hey, if we want to win this thing, we've got to do better than bogeys on easy par 4s. And she says, "Listen, you hit 3 shots. I only hit 2. Got it?" So all of you ladies out there, and you husbands, how many fights have I ever won in our marriage in 32 years? Probably 0 with somebody who's that sharp and that quick. In golf, it's obviously the life of a golfer is fun, and there's times when you get to be a part of things which are great, big events, really high pressure moments. But there's been so many great players over the year. There's been so many people, from the Ben Hogans and the Walter Hagens to the Trevinos and the Palmers and the Nicklases and the players, and now the Tiger Woodses. By the way, how about Tiger Woods? Amazing. He's a much more humble guy today than he was in the past, and it's fun seeing him progress as both a person and now a player again, so I'm really happy for him. But anyway, when it comes to golf, there's not many things that you can do that have never been done before. So like, as an example, like there was a time when I was in the final group in the U.S. Open 4 years in a row, and it had been done once before, and Bobby Jones had done it. So, good company. Of course, he won 2, and I won 0, so he left me behind. I was the PGA Tour, the Web.com Tour, and the Champions Tour Player of the Year, and that actually has never been done before, so I'm the first person who's done that, but it's only because I was so bad to start, that I got to play on that tour, and now I'm really old, I get to play on that tour, and not everybody's had that chance. But there is one thing that I've done which I think has never been done before in golf. All right, it's really a big deal too. And it happened at the US Open at Bethpage. At Bethpage in New York, which, as you all can imagine, the New York crowds are great, they're tough, but they're fair. I mean, my wife and kids and I went to New York City one time for a week off, a vacation, and we stayed in this little hotel right by Central Park, and at the time my boys were fairly small, and my girls actually played softball, which, is unheard of thinking back. I can't even imagine them playing softball. So we took our gloves and our bat, and we went into Central Park to the baseball field, and we had a family softball game, or baseball game, whatever it was. Okay, and these New York fans, a bunch of them actually came and sat in the bleachers and started watching and cheering for us. Come on, Missy, hit that ball. Come on, run. Take the third, get him at the, you get it. Okay, so New York fans are interesting. All right, so at Bethpage on the 4th hole, it's a par 4, you tee off up on a hill, and the fairway runs like this to the side, diagonal, with a big, huge bunker along the right. And it's a real long hole, so if you can kind of cut off the bunker, take it way over the right side of the bunker and really hit one hard, you can really shorten the hole, and you probably hit maybe a 9-iron or an 8-iron instead of going straight and hitting a 4 or 5-iron. And so this particular day, 3rd round, I'm playing well. I decide I'm going to just take it over the whole bunker, and I aim down over the right edge of the bunker, and I just bomb this thing, just rip it, and just crush it. But I just kind of hang it to the right just a little bit. It's probably going to catch the rough, just like, and the rough is thick, it's going to be, I just hack it out and hit a sand wedge for a 3rd shot. It's probably going to be a bogey maybe. And anyway, so I'm, walk down the tee, down the hill, go marching past the bunker. I'm looking up ahead where my ball should be. There should be a marshal there telling you the ball's here, but I'm looking up ahead, there's no marshal up there. I'm looking like, where'd that ball go? And the New Yorker's like, hey, pal, it's behind you. And I turn around, and if you can imagine the bunker, I'm going that way. The bunker face goes up like this, and then the hill on the back goes way down like that, and my ball is halfway up the hill underneath the grass. And so I'm thinking, like, how the heck did that ball get there? I'm hitting it this way, and the ball is like this. Hello? Yeah? That's correct. It hit somebody. Anyway, it did. The ball hit somebody in the edge by the ropes in the shin. So he's watching like this. The ball hits him, boom, goes backwards up the slope on the backside of the bunker. So now I'm in the grass this high, kind of hanging over the ball, and I've got to just get in there really, steep and, and just chop it. And I get over the, sometimes if you play golf, you get over these lies and I've got to swing so hard at this ball just to hit it 30 yards. It's just going to be a great shot just to get it back to the fairway. And so I look over at the guy and I go, is your shin okay? He's got a big welt. And he goes, yeah, it's fine. I go, hey, I'm sorry, but you did me a dirty there. I don't appreciate that. Anyway, so thanks for nothing, but I know, everybody laughs. So I get over this, and as I'm kind of getting over this thing, I'm kind of aiming this way, the crowd's over here, they start to back away. They start to back away. So I'm like, what are you backing away for? They go, and the guy goes, because you're probably going to shank it. So I look at, no, I don't shank ever. I haven't shanked a ball in 20 years. Don't sweat it. So they all move back in. So I get over this thing, and I take this big swing, and I'm just trying to hit it 30 yards that way, right to the wall over there, and I swing as hard as I can, just drop the club right on top of the ball, and what do? I shanked it. And it hit the same guy in the chest. Yep. So I think that has never been done before, where a player has hit the same guy twice on one hole. Sometimes in golf you get these honors that come along your way, and we're talking about the Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup is a huge deal, and I was actually really fortunate to be the captain in 2006. Is that right? Jimbo? All right, thank you. He's my brother and my agent, so I got to run these things by him. So 2006 I was the captain, and as part of being the captain, they have a big media day in New York. And you go to New York and you do all this media training so you don't step on your foot and say something stupid over the next couple of years, and because you're going to be in the media so much, and then at the end of the night, you go to Yankee Stadium and they get to throw out the first pitch. But I need to regress just a little bit, because I'm kind of going back to this thing about being on the back nine here. And there was a time in my life when I was actually on the front nine, and I actually had hair, and had blonde hair. And believe it or not, I'm not trying to, you gotta just listen and go with it, okay? Every so often, people would say, when you smile just that way, or when you look just that way, you look like that actor Kevin Costner. Wow, thank you. Appreciate that. And it happened fairly regularly. Was when you just kind of look that way or smile that way, whatever, you look like that Costner guy. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, I wonder if Kevin Costner ever hears, hey, you look like that golfer Tom Lehman. I don't know. It'd be kind of nice to find out, but I don't know. Anyway, so getting back to the Ryder Cup thing, and so now I'm in Yankee Stadium at the end of a long day of media training, and I'm throwing out the first pitch, and I walk out to the mound, and Mike Messina's pitching, and he gives me the ball and says, don't bounce it. Whatever you do, don't bounce it. They'll boo. All right? So I wind up, and I throw this pitch as hard as I can, and I throw it 10 feet over the catcher's head, all the way to the fence. And so they laughed. They didn't boo, but they did laugh, but they didn't boo. Okay, so now I'm kind of embarrassed, and I'm walking out the field towards the Yankee dugout, and who is sitting in the front row? Kevin Costner is in the front row. He's in the front row. And as I'm walking towards the dugout, he stands up, and he points at me, and he says, I don't look like you! So he heard it. He heard the same thing. He didn't like it very much. Oh my, it's true. True story. Oh my. I guess we're here tonight to talk a little bit about, life and faith and how they kind of intersect. And as I was thinking about, what I was going to talk about, and specifically, the thing that kind of kept on coming back to me was the fact that God has always given to me what I need when I need it. And not what you want. A lot of times what you want is different than what you need, but God has always seemed to give me faithfully what I need. And, learning some lessons and, through things, but I'll just give you some examples of what I'm talking about. At the British Open, 1996, I won. My dad was there, some other close friends were there, so it was a really special week. And, I was ranked second in the world at the time of going into the British Open, had just finished second at the U.S. Open, almost won the U.S. Open at Oakland Hills, and came really close to winning. And so my game was really good, and I was playing fantastic golf, very confident. Got to Royal Lytham, and the course is very difficult, but it really plays to my strengths, and so I felt pretty confident. And because I was ranked second in the world, all the top players were assigned a policeman to be like their escort. Tiger was only about, I think, maybe 18 at the time, and so he only had maybe a couple versus the dozens that he has now. But so Greg Norman had his escort, and Nick Faldo had a policeman with him, maybe a couple. And so I had this guy named Kevin Boyles. And so when I think about the British Open and all the memories that I have about that week, the one that stands out the most to me had to do with Kevin Boyles. And everywhere I went, to the range, to the first tee, to the media center, to the car afterwards, to the locker room. He basically was by my side the whole time. So it was my caddy, Kevin Boyles, and me the whole week at Lytham and St. Anne's. And so he was kind of part of the team. And what I remember so specifically and clearly is on the 18th hole, I hit my second shot on the green, so I had a 2-shot lead. I could 3-putt and still win the tournament. So the tournament was basically over. It was mine. But at the British Open, when the final group hits their approach shot to 18, the crowd just races to the green, and it's from here to the back wall of people you've got to fight through to get to the green. They don't get out of your way. You've got to kind of fight your way through the crowd. So old Kevin, who was about 6'4" and really a big dude, kind of wrapped one arm around his back and grabbed me and just started swatting people out of the way. Just, fighting his way until he finally broke through just short of the green. And there's my ball, and there's the green, and the crowd is cheering, and the scoreboard has my name on top, and Kevin puts his arm around me, and he says, "Hey, Tom, we've been through a lot of shit together, but now you're on your own." Yeah. So that's the most vivid memory, but the most significant moment of that tournament happened on the 14th hole, the first round. And so when I tell you that God always would seemingly faithfully would give me what I need, so, sometimes, as I'll talk about a little later, it's like you need something now in order to be better or do something properly later. So that you're learning a lesson now, but you really messed up, so that the next time around, in the future somewhere, you're better, and you've learned the lesson. This one, it was more like, this is what I need right now. God, I need something right now. And, but I was too mad to be thinking about that because I started the tournament, I was 4 under through 12, going to the 13th hole, and the 13th hole is the easiest hole in the course, by far. It's a 5-iron off the tee and a sand wedge, and it's one of the easiest birdie holes on the course, and I hit my 5-iron to the right into a bunker, tried to reach the green and hit it into the next bunker, tried to reach the green, hit it into the next bunker, and then finally got it on the green, 2-putted for a double. So I go from 4 under to 2 under, and now I've got the toughest stretch of holes in the course. The last 5 holes are really, really difficult, and I am so angry I could bite the head off a nail. I mean, I could take my driver and snap it. I could break every club in my bag. I was so mad. And my caddy, he's a guy, he came for Johnny Miller for 15 years, by the way, so he's really experienced, but he told me way back when he first started caddying, he said, my whole goal, my whole job is to make you look good. That's my job. If I make you look good, we're going to do really good. We're going to do really well. And so he knows that I'm really angry, and I'm at the point, where the ground could go sideways in a hurry, and so he was always had the knack for saying the right thing at the right time. And so I just crushed this drive down the middle, and I hit this 6-iron in there about 8 feet, and I'm still steaming, and I throw him the ball across the green to clean the ball off, and he kind of slowly walks over, and he's kind of washing the ball, and he kind of holds it to me to take away, and then I try to take it away, he hangs on to it, he won't give it back. He says, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something. I'm caddying for the best player in the field this week, don't forget it. And then he let the ball go and he walked away. Okay, so I made the putt for birdie, then I birdied the next hole, ended up shooting 67. But here's the thing, is that words matter. Words, this is the lesson I learned that day. Words really, really matter. We have the ability to build somebody up and to make them feel good about themselves, to encourage them, to inspire them, to give them courage, or we have the ability to tear them down and make them feel weak, unwanted, unloved, unforgiven. So he kind of taught me a lesson that day because God gave me what I needed right at that moment in time, which was encouragement to get me focused back on the task at hand. So that was a big lesson that I learned because God gave me something that I needed when I really needed. I needed the right word. So as I have gone through life, I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten that moment where Andrew had the right words for me. And so I've tried, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully, to have the right words for others. I remember when I was a Ryder Cup captain at Ireland, Tiger was really struggling. He played poorly the first day, just played awful. He and Furyk lost 2 matches. And then on the next morning, he was playing poorly again, and he hit a shot on this par 3, the 8th hole, which was just a totally un-Tiger-like shot, just a pull hook, 8-iron buried in the bunker. And so I'm thinking to myself, what do you say to Tiger Woods when he's not playing well? Do you know? Somebody help me here. I don't know what you say to a guy like that. So I remember praying, like Andrew did for me, Lord, give me some words to say to this guy, because he's obviously out of sorts and just something. And so I kind of got in walking beside him, and we walked about halfway to the green, and he finally looks at me and he goes, "What?" I said, "I'd like to remind you of something, Tiger. I'd like to remind you that you might be the best player who's ever played this game, just in case you forgot." And then I walked away. He goes, Thanks, Cap. Okay. All right. And he started playing better. I mean, and I'm not sure if that helped or didn't help or what, but to me, words matter. So that's a lesson that I learned, through something that I needed. But most of my life, though, it's been about things that I really needed to learn. I mean, and look, the older I get, the realize more and more how imperfect I am. And so there's some things that really matter. And I was in 7th grade. We were playing in a junior high golf tournament in Sauk Center, Minnesota. It was the junior high conference championship, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And I don't know what number guy I was playing. All I know is that, on our 8th hole, a par 5, I made like a 9 or a 10 or something. I made some really high score. And the guy who was scoring for me, said to me, like, was that an 8? I go, yeah, it was an 8. So I must have made a 9. I remember cutting it by a shot. It was a 9? I mean, it was an 8? Yeah, that was an 8. Okay. So he writes 8 down, and so and I'm playing pretty well, so this 8 was a blow to the score, but I was still playing pretty well, so I was hanging in there. And so we get to the next hole, and for the reason, we're the last group on the course, and so the teams are around the green, and I'm on this par 5 in 3 with about a 12-footer for a birdie, and they say if you 2-putt, our team wins. Really? Because I was debating the whole way up the fairway of kind of correcting my score. But now this guy already told the coach, that what I was shooting, and so they all knew that I 2-putt to win. So now I'm stuck. I can't get out of this one. I've got to just kind of go with it. So I 2-putt, and the team wins by a shot. And I went home that night, and you talk about how old are you in 7th grade? 12 or 13? What are you? You're 14. What are you? 8th grade? Yeah. So you're a 13-year-old. Went home that night, and I was the most miserable kid in the history of the world. Look in the mirror and knowing that I cheated. I just felt so bad, because I was raised going to church and everything, and I knew right from wrong. I certainly knew that cheating and lying is not correct. And so I vowed, I'll never do that again. I felt like God was looking at me and just, and so fast forward to Greensboro. I forget the year. It might have been 2002 or something. And I had a 1-shot lead going into the last round at Greensboro on the PGA Tour, and made a really good par in the first hole, nearly made a birdie. The second hole, I knocked it on in 2. Had about a 30-footer for eagle, and I rolled it up right in the center, uphill, left stop about that far short, dead center for eagle, so I had a tap-in birdie. And I walked up to tap it in, and I took the putter back, and right as I started coming through, the ball just started to roll a little bit. But I was already into my downstroke, and so, I kind of actually jumped back. It's like, that ball moved. And partners go, well, no, that didn't move. I go, yeah, it definitely moved. And they go, no, we were watching, we didn't see it. I go, I'm certain it moved. And so they called the rules guy who came over, and then he called CBS to look on the cameras to see if they could see it on the camera, and make a long story short, they said, well, nobody could see it move. I go, well, look at it. I'm thinking to myself, I remember 7th grade. All right, and so I ended up saying, look, I'm certain that ball, it was steady, and right as before I hit it, it just rolled forward a little bit. It was moving when I hit it. He goes, well, that's really a bummer, because not only is it a shot, because the ball moved, it's another shot for hitting a moving ball. That's a 2-shot penalty. So it cost me 2 shots, I lost by 1. All because of 7th grade. But the point is this, is that God needed to teach me, that honesty and truthfulness and integrity are everything. They're everything, and we all know those who have it, and we know those who don't. So I needed to learn a really tough lesson when I was in 7th grade in order to do the right thing when I was 35 or 40 or however old I was. So, it was a really important lesson that I received through golf. And it certainly has served me well, I can promise you. I've never had to look in the mirror since then and kind of despise what I see. Another big deal, really big deal. On the Hogan Tour, the first year there's a Hogan Tour, which is now the web.com. I was an alternate on the tour. I wasn't a full member of the tour. And so because I was an alternate member, I didn't have a caddy that I traveled with, so I got into this tournament in Wichita, all right, and I had no caddy, and so I went to the pro shop and I said, hey, I just got in as an alternate. Are there any caddies around? They said, well, no, but we can find you one. Well, they found me a guy who was a wrestler. Okay, the guy didn't play golf at all. He's a wrestler, so he became my caddy for the week. All right, so this wrestler and I went out. We played on, this Hogan Tour event, and it's, they're a big deal because if you win, a lot of good things come with that. It's part of the StellaWeb.com, so that you know that there's good things that happen for winning. And so me and the wrestler went out and competed, and you know what? I won. I won the tournament. Okay, made $20,000. We were like $6,000 in debt. My wife and I and my daughter Rachel were traveling in a Volvo with no air conditioning, and so I made this $20,000, and they're like, "This is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me." It's like, this is the biggest check of my life. This will kind of get us through the rest of the year. I mean, all these great things financially. Then I realized, I got to pay my caddy. And typically, when you win, you pay your caddy 10% as a bonus of what you win. That's kind of like the unwritten rule. You give your caddy 10% of the whatever you won. So I'm thinking, okay, 10% of 20 grand is 2,000. I don't really feel like paying this wrestler $2,000. He didn't read a putt. He didn't do all the stuff a normal caddy does. But yet he was my caddy. He was my teammate. And so talking to my wife, what do you think? Do I pay him the $2,000 or pay him $100 a day? What do you think? And she says, well, I think you got to do what you think is right. And so I started thinking, okay, well, what's right? I definitely try to get God's input on stuff like that. And it's like, hey, you know what? There's no written rule that says the guy's got to be a professional caddy or even a caddy at all. He's part of your team. You ought to pay him the 10%. So I wrote him a check for $2,000. A little bit tough, but I did, and then didn't think twice about it, and we went on our merry way. Well, the kid was real quiet, didn't tell me much about himself, but I got a letter from him about 2 months later. The letter kind of told me about his upbringing. His mom, no dad around, he abandoned the family, mom working 3 jobs, he and his brothers went crazy, alcohol and drugs and girls, and they're just 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old messes. Life was going away in the wrong direction, and the wrestling coach got a hold of him. He was also the head of the FCA in his high school, and he got him involved with wrestling, and then got him involved with FCA, and before you know it, this kid's got his life straightened out, and he is so on fire for God, and he's so on fire for wrestling, but he really wants to go to a Bible school because he wants to be a minister. But the problem is nobody in his family had any money. The tuition was $2,000. Nobody had it until he got the check. I always get emotional, always. So to me, the lesson that I needed to learn was this, is that God has a way bigger picture. He sees things way differently than we do. So I'm thinking, this is all about me. This win is all about me. I mean, I need the money. I need that exemption into the next term, and I need next year's being fully exempt on the Hogan Tour. I need to be able to pay off that credit card bill. I need to take care of my wife and my kid. This is all about me. And I realized, it's like, you know what? You're wrong. Part of it's about me, but a big part is about him. And so to me, that story really helped change my perspective, on a lot of things. God kind of gave me this, because I wasn't successful yet. I was still struggling. So I think without this better perspective on things, that it would have been way more difficult to get on the PGA Tour where the real success happened, without understanding that God has a way bigger picture, that it's not all about me. So from that day forward, I have worked hard trying to have a perspective as, it's about other people, putting other people first. And one thing I would say is that God hates sin so much because innocent people suffer. We do things that are wrong, and the people that are totally out of the picture are the ones who pay the penalty many times. So doing the right thing is really important because we want to be a blessing. I got 2 more stories to tell and I'll be finished, but they're both pretty important. The mini tours, that's where I played. I played most of my 20s and 30s on the mini tours and all over the world, and it kind of goes along with the same story, but the tour school, I had all of the talent that I needed, and I I just didn't have the trust. I didn't believe in myself. So all these tournaments that I played were all about trying to find a way to believe in who I was as a golfer. And I feel like the Lord kept on saying, look, I created you. I gave you the talent. Just believe it. Just trust it. And I had a hard time. And so at this particular tour school, 1990, I got off to a really bad start in the tournament. And it's a 6-round event, and there's a 4-round cut. And I got to the 72nd hole, and I had to make a birdie just to make the 4-round cut. And that was important because that was the year leading up, to my, well, it's a long story. I'll get back to that. I had to make a birdie on the 72nd hole. Okay, and so all the pressure in the world were riding on this one hole, and if I didn't make this birdie, I was kind of out of luck for the future. If I made the cut, it was going to make a big difference, and so I was so nervous. And there's water right, pin was back right, and I'm a drawer of the golf ball, and the only really way to get it easily close is to cut it, and so my caddy said, look, you just got to trust it. Look, I've seen you hit that shot over and over. You're in the middle of fairway, you got 150 to the pin, just get that little cut shot. I've seen you do it over and over on the practice range. If you're ever going to trust it, if you're ever going to believe in yourself, now is the time to do it. So I stood up, aimed left, tried to hit this little cut shot, and I just hit this perfect shot. Perfect shot. Very few perfect shots that I can remember. But the ball started just a hair left of the flag, just maybe moved to the right a foot. It's almost dead straight. Never left the flag, just to about a foot short of the hole for a tap-in birdie to make the cut. And it's like that one shot, because I had a lot of chances up to that point to learn that, and I failed. Hit a lot of really bad shots in big situations. Finally, this shot was perfect, and there was just something happened inside that just changed me as a golfer. I went from being a golfer who didn't believe and didn't think I could handle the pressure to a golfer who knew I could handle the pressure. I just handled the most pressure I've ever had in my life, and I hit a perfect shot. So now I got 2 more rounds to go. So I'm thinking, okay, God just gave me this perfect shot, to make the cut. So now I've just got to play the next 2 rounds about 5 under, and I'll get my PGA Tour card. This is 1990. I'm dead broke. Just, that's my dream, right? So play the next round, I shoot 3 under. Okay, I'm halfway there. Come to the 108th hole of the tournament. The last hole of the tournament, I have to make a birdie to get my PGA Tour card. It's a long par 4, hit a great tee shot, a beautiful 5-iron, about 15 feet right of the hole. The guy I'm playing with is about 3 feet just outside of me on the exact same line. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I can watch his putt. He hits his putt up on the right side. It kind of snaps at the end and misses low, just off the left edge. And so I play it just a little bit higher. And so you can imagine I'm thinking, look, I made this big comeback from like 9 over just to make the cut and hit this perfect shot. And now I'm full of confidence. And like, this is meant to be. This is just a tap in. There's no way this putt can't go in the hole. Hit this putt just a little bit higher, perfect line, perfect speed, up, starts to break, starts to snap, gets to the hole, straightens out, hits the top lip, there's a 360, doesn't go in. Miss. Missed my card again. Walked off the green, sobbing. It's the only time I've ever cried at a golf tournament was after that putt didn't go in. Oh, here we go again, another missed tour school, and at that point in time, I'm thinking like, why? Why? And so this whole thing about looking at things from a bigger picture. Well, the why was because I didn't get my card, I was now fully exempt on the Hogan Tour. And I went the next year in the Hogan Tour, and I won 3 tournaments, and all this newfound confidence, I just translated right into just dominating the Hogan Tour. In which the confidence, which was at this level, went to this level up here, and then from that year, I went onto the PGA Tour and finished 24th my first year, made the Tour Championship, and never looked back. I had set 5 goals for myself in 1992 when I got on tour, which, this is coming from a guy who played the mini tours his whole life, basically, and he had very little success. I want to win a tournament. I want to win a major championship. I want to be on the Ryder Cup team. I want to be the PGA Tour Player of the Year, and I want to be the #1 player in the world. And, if I were to told my friends those goals, they would have been laughing, like, yeah. Really? You can't even win the North Dakota Open. But within 5 years, I had accomplished all 5 of those goals. And the reason is because that putt missed on the 108th hole. If that putt would have gone in, I would have had to go battle and try to maintain that confidence against the very best players in the world. And was I ready? Well, maybe. but maybe not. Instead, I got to go to the Hogan Tour, which is now the web.com, and play against those guys, which I was better than. And my confidence grew to the point where I became, almost unstoppably successful. So again, it just, the idea that God sees our lives in a different way than we do, and he knows what's better than us. So I kind of learned never to second guess. Whatever happens, there's got to be a reason for it, so trust God for it. But here's the most important story of all. Okay? This story is the biggest lesson that I've had to learn in my life, and it's affected me in so many ways. So in the Ryder Cup in 1999, we played at Brookline. Who watched that Ryder Cup? I'm sure many of you did. But so the U.S. team was fantastic. We had a great team, and the European team wasn't all that strong. And we were just getting pummeled through 2 days. We were down 4 points. And no team had ever come back from 4 points down to win in a Ryder Cup. And here the U.S. team was 4 points behind with this great team, and we had to run the tables on Sunday. And so I was up first. I was the first guy off the tee on Sunday morning, and I was playing Lee Westwood, and I beat him 3-2, and then Hal Sutton was behind me, and he beat Darren Clark 4-3, and David Duvall pounded somebody, and Phil pounded somebody, and Tiger pounded. Before you know it, we've won like the first 6 matches. We end up getting to the point where it looks like, hey, we have a really good chance to win, but Justin Leonard, he has to kind of come through for us. And he was way down in his match, and he started coming back against Olazabal. And he ended up coming to the 17th hole, and he made this 50-foot bomb up over a ridge to take a 1-up lead, and it looks like unless Olazabal makes his putt on top of him, we're going to win the Ryder Cup. And so, Justin's putt goes in, we all go crazy, we run across the green, we're mobbing him, not really realizing that Olazabal still can tie the hole if he makes his putt, and he doesn't, so we do win. But after the fact, in the media center, the European team was hypercritical of the U.S. team, and the British media was super critical of the U.S. team, and they singled me out as like the worst of the worst. And they said, quote unquote, this guy calls himself a man of God. How could he act like such an idiot, basically? So they kind of centered a lot of their irritation on me. And this guy named John Huggan, who was a writer over in Scotland, wrote this letter, wrote this article, which was so scathingly bad. It was just brutal. I thought he was being not just unfair, lying, untrue, but just ripped me for being a hypocrite, ripped me for being this, just a terrible article. And no one's ever written something that bad before. I've had some negative things, but this was like, think of the worst thing you can think of, that was kind of it. So I determined that I didn't deserve that. I'm a way nicer guy than that, and I'm a way better guy than that. I don't deserve that. So the next time I see John Huggan, I am going to give him a piece of my mind, and I'm not going to hold back. So a couple weeks later, I'm playing at the Dunhill Cup at St. Andrews, and who do I see across the way on the driving range? John Huggan. Marched right over, got right in his face. Okay, and I pointed my finger at him, and I swore at him, and I ripped him a new one, and I just berated this guy for about a minute. Okay, feeling like I had every right in the world to do it because he was so unfair to me. Then I march away, never think about it again, not once, not for a second. Didn't regret it, didn't think about it, didn't care. Well, now time goes forward, and I become the Ryder Cup captain. So guess what happens? John Huggan writes article number 2, which makes number 1 look like something from the Boy Scouts. Because in this one, he verbatim writes exactly what I said to him on that range at St. Andrews. Okay, I've got to hold together. This is just, whew. So I read this article, and now I have a different take on it. Because I read now my own words, what I've said to him. And I say to myself, I can't believe I said that to this guy. I mean, nobody deserves that. I don't care how nasty he was. And he was saying what an absolute hypocrite Tom Lehman is. I'm so sick and tired of these Christian athletes who think they're so high and mighty and so self-righteous and, you know, yada, 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 yada. Here's what he said to me, da, 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 da. You know, I hope this guy goes down in flames. I mean, and I read it and I said, you know what? Every bit of that is true. Okay, I need to get a hold of this guy. And so all he had there was his email address on the bottom of the article. No phone number. So I emailed him. Hey, John, and I wrote him this letter. And I explained to him, like, you know, what I just told you, I never thought one thing about what I said to you. I thought you deserved it. And as I read your article, I realized how wrong I was and how nobody deserves that. And you say that I'm a hypocrite, and I am, for sure. I said, but I'm going to tell you one thing, though, which is true, is that I know that I can be capable of doing what I did to you. I know that I've got a temper, and I know I can do some bad things when I'm mad, and I know how crummy of a person I can be. And it's because I know that I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian because I know what I can do, and I need to be forgiven because I know that I'm far, far less than perfect. So this whole idea about being a hypocrite, you're right, but in some weird way, I hope you understand that's why I am a Christian, because I think we all need forgiveness. I said, but right now, what I really want is forgiveness from you. And you have no reason to forgive me, you know, but I was so wrong. I treated you so badly. I feel so awful about it. So if you could see in your heart to forgive me, I just want to say I'm sorry. And so he calls me. I had put my phone number in the email. He called me. I absolutely forgive you. No problem. I understand. When you come to Scotland next year, let's get together and have a beer and we'll talk about it. All right, so to me, it's like, oh, wow. You know, first of all, what a burden off my shoulders. You know, to have this guy forgive you for doing something so stupid. You know, but to me, the reason why it's so important is because this idea of forgiveness is such a big deal. It's such a big deal, and we all need it. And I know that, you know, we need God to forgive us, obviously, for the things that we do that are wrong, and I think we all try to be good people, but, you know, forgiveness from God is a big, big deal, and it takes away the guilt. But forgiveness between each other, you know, person to person. You know, somebody told me this really cool phrase that says, unforgiveness is like drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die. You know, that's true. The person in bondage is the person who doesn't forgive. You know, so you know, forgiveness from God, forgiveness from other people, and forgiving other people. But there's a third thing. And there's a third thing which I think is really important, is forgiving ourselves. You know, because I know that there was a long time in my life where I would hold on to every imperfection. You know, I was a perfectionist, you know, needed to get good grades and be good at golf, and, you know, so being really good in trying to get approval, you know, was a big deal. And so every failure was a thing where I would carry that guilt forever. You know, so I think probably the most significant day of my life was the day where I remember just, you know, I was praying, you know, about just, hey, whatever I was praying about, I don't know, I don't remember. And it's like this inside my head, this voice just kind of said to me, look at Tom, you know, I love you. I sent my son to this world to die on a cross for everyone, including you. My son died for you, you know, and so I've forgiven you. So if I can forgive you, why can't you forgive yourself? And like, what a freeing moment that was. You know, so this whole thing with John Huggin, it kind of reinforced to me this idea of how important the idea of forgiveness is, and how living in a state of bitterness comes directly from being in a state of unforgiveness. So my challenge to you tonight, you know, as I leave and finish up, is of course we all have things we need to learn, but the biggest thing is take that grace and that mercy that God has given us and the forgiveness He's given us, and let that flow through us to those around us. and let that flow through us into ourselves also. So let's be forgiving people. That's really kind of all I have to say. I could probably go on, I suppose, but I just want you to know that I appreciate the ability to talk to you tonight, to kind of share a little bit about my story, about my life, how golf has been such a big part of it, but how God has used golf in such a mighty way to hopefully make me better than I was. So thank you very much. Are we taking questions now? Or?
I'm going to say a couple of things. You can stay up here. Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
I'm struck by the fact that I grew up being a big fan of yours and how it's so cool to have you here. So thanks for coming. Truly. I mentioned this is the last event of the season, so if you will permit me, I'm going to say a few announcements here while Tom has a chance to rest his throat. After that, again, there will be a chance for some questions and answers. So one is we're in the process now of framing up next year's series. We don't have the first event in the fall. We're very close to getting it scheduled. But if you want to get updates about those events, you can sign up to our email list or like us on Facebook, and we'll share news about that. We usually announce the full series later in the summer, so if you sign up for those things, you'll get news about those proactively. So do that if you would like. These events, I've said this at every event since we started 16 years ago, they are not a budget item of this congregation. We do them as a community service. They happen to be based here, but all of the costs of this series are borne by incredibly generous individuals and organizations who have caught sort of the spirit of what we're doing and are willing to invest in it. They are all listed in your program tonight. At least I hope they all are. I hate it when we miss people. If we've missed you, I apologize. But if I could just say a few thank yous. I'm not going to read all the names, obviously, but I want to thank Thrivent Financial. They've been with us from the very beginning. So Jim and Brent, thank you, wherever you all are. And Liz, nice to meet you tonight as well. The Ulrich Real Estate Group, Beth and Eddie, thank you very much for your ongoing support. Rapid Packaging, Phil and Mona, I don't believe are here tonight, but Phil and Mona and Mike, thank all of you. Productivity Inc., Greg and Lisa, I don't think they're here, but thank you, Greg and Lisa, if you're listening virtually. Mastercraft, Jeff and Patrice, wherever you are, thank you. Jeff, thank you for the joke you sent me today. Cressa, again, been a wonderful partner. Jim and Ruth Ann, grateful to you very, very much. Thank you, and thanks to everyone at Cressa. Honeybee Capital, Catherine Collins is a former speaker, actually, who lives out on the East Coast, but she has decided she loves what we do, and she continues to support us. Malley Design, they're at the bottom, help us out with some print things, and then Anselm House has been a good partner. They're a Christian Studies Center at the University of Minnesota, so thanks to both of those. The Mick and Sandy Lee Foundation, their logo is not there, but thanks to them. Also thanks to Jay and Jennifer Novak, grateful to both of you. Tim and Janice Maudlin. Tim, thank you for your recent joining us in our mission. I'm grateful to you and also grateful for your friendship. So we would not be able to be here tonight. We could not put these on without the generosity of all of these people. And there are many others who I'm not able to name who are listed here, who are present with us tonight. Will you join me in expressing our thanks? I've thanked these guys, well, usually it's just Jeff, but Jeff Elstad has been with us from the start. He's with him tonight with his son, Eli, who has also joined him for his intro and outro. So Jeff and Eli, thank you for your music. And then I do want to say a special thanks to someone I teased a little bit at the beginning of the event, but Jim Lehman, where'd you go? There you are. Jim, you have been a dear, dear friend for a long time. I don't get to see you nearly enough, but I am grateful to you for everything you've meant to me and my families as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You're a wonderful human being, even if you haven't beaten your brother recently. And Mo, it's nice to see you tonight as well. I'm glad you guys could be with us. Final thing, I want to make this very, very clear. The Faith and Life series is, again, I said this already, but it is a community service. It is something we do freely and generously because I believe that it's important to hear wonderful people like Tom talk about the intersection of faith and life. This is not a bait and switch, okay? Did you all hear that? The series is not about making sure that we get more people to worship at St. Philip the Deacon. Did you hear that? All right. However, we actually booked Tom a year ago. He agreed to do this sort of conceptually, and I've been dealing with his wonderful assistant, Joni. Please thank her, by the way. We didn't actually nail down a date until, I don't know, a couple of months ago or something. And I said, well, you do know that's Holy Week, right? And Joni's like, yep. So the April 17th it is, right? So it's Holy Week, and that means that tomorrow night is Maundy, Thursday, Friday is Good Friday, Saturday is what we call it the first light of Easter here, and Sunday morning is Easter Sunday. I hope each and every one of you have a loving, beautiful community of faith that you can go and worship on Sunday or on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. If you don't, all I want to say is that you are most welcome here, okay? And so in the program is a list of our service times. Join us if you'd like. If you have another congregation that you're already a member of, wonderful. God bless you. Okay, enough with the chatting from me. If there are questions, and I hope we have a few. Oh, actually, so we'll go for 10, 15 minutes or so with questions related to Holy Week. I will tell you, this should not be a problem. We'll be out of here by about 20 after at the latest. One of the complicating things about having this event tonight is that our choir is going to be rehearsing in here at 8:30, along with the brass quintet and timpani. So if you want to hang out and listen to a rehearsal of some awesome music and get a preview of what you would hear on Sunday, you're welcome to. But I am going to do a hard stop at about 20 after, okay? So anyway, question. If you have a question, if you wouldn't mind coming up to one of the mics, that'll help everyone hear it, okay?
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Thank you for your willingness to be so vulnerable and talking about your story. It's really refreshing. You talked about what matters and words that matter, and it was really struck a chord. And you've played with some of the greatest golfers in the world. I would love to have a bad day like Tiger. But as you reflect upon all the people that you've played with in the PGA, the Hogan, who are some of the people that you are most impressed with and who you feel are most respected?
Great question. Yeah, I think number one at the top of the list is Byron Nelson. He's probably the one player, the one man that I respect more than any other, and he's this combination of humble and confident. He's a superstar, and he's a godly man, and he had very competitive, and he was always would be the kind of guy who would write you a note when you played well. So I think if there's anybody that I really truly looked up to who said I'd like to be like that guy, it was Byron Nelson. I think in terms of golf, who wouldn't want to be like Nicklaus or Arnie or something, so that they were my heroes growing up. But I think as a human being, Byron Nelson's at the top of the top. Yep.
Hi, Mr. Lehman. My name is Bill. Thanks so much for being here, and I also appreciate your vulnerability. My question has to do with mentors and coaches and spiritual companions in your life. But before I get to that, I just wanted to share that I came to know about your father, Jim, actually before you became well known on the tour. In the early 80s, I had the amazing privilege of playing football for St. John's and John Gillardy, God rest his soul. John would refer to players in our film sessions who did their jobs extraordinarily well. And I'm confident he mentioned your father, Jim, many times. And I came to learn afterwards that he was All-American, two-time All-American, 1954 and 1955 halfback at St. John's.
Yep.
So apart from my father, John is right up there at the top of the men who have really profoundly impacted me. My question to you, could you share any examples of significant mentors, coaches who have helped shape your faith in your life, and who on tour do you consider a real spiritual companion?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, my dad, thank you for mentioning my dad, by the way. He was a great athlete, and yeah, John Gallardi would always talk with my dad and to all his teams. He would say what a great player he was, how fast he was, and they would always say, well, how would he do today? I mean, how would he do today if you were playing today? He goes, well, he'd probably do pretty well. I mean, he'd probably score 10 or 11 touchdowns, but he may be a step slower, but he'd still do pretty well. But mentors are a big deal. So my dad, for my brother Jim and I and my brother Mike, our dad was the driving force at home, all through high school and college. And then once I kind of got into college, where the past college, I started getting a couple coaches who really helped me with the golf. I had two coaches, Les Bolstead and then Jim Flick, were the only two coaches I've ever had all through the years. And both of them amazing teachers. Jim Flick for 23 years. Dear man, became a very close friend, but they were really kind of helped steer me through the waters of golf. A guy named Larry Moody, who was the chaplain of the PGA Tour, kind of became more of a spiritual mentor for me, and so he to this day, he's a guy that I go to if there's a problem in my life or I need somebody to talk to. I talk to Larry, and it's really important to have a guy like that. I mean, there's a lot of issues that we all face, and it's good to have somebody you can be completely honest with without being judged. So it's a good deal. Great question. Yes.
Hi, Tom. I eventually will be the butt of the story, but I want to tell folks here, before Tiger, there was Tom Lehman. And if you were a Minnesota guy, you didn't want to watch a golf tournament on Sunday unless you were in the hunt.
No.
I remember the 4 U.S. Opens, but how about the Masters? I can still see you on 13. Go for 2, Tom, make a birdie.
Yeah.
We loved you.
Thank you.
Well, I have a son who's 30, and I told him about how great Tom Lehman was. So was the PGA here a couple times ago, and so we decided to follow you. And I think on the first 7 holes, you were inside 15 feet on all 7 of them, and you missed the putt on all of them.
Yeah.
And
so you came to give me a putting lesson.
My son, who was about 13 at the time, says to me, Dad, let's move on. He's breaking my heart. And I said, Jeff, you just figured out 90 minutes what took me a decade to learn.
Yeah.
We love you, Tom.
Thank you. I appreciate
that was a story, and I remind him of that.
Yeah.
But we could not, as fans, we could not have loved you more.
Thank you very much. That's really kind. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Tom, you've obviously developed quite a camaraderie with your players on the senior tour. We watch all the commercials on television. I'm just wondering, how much longer do you intend to play professional golf?
Well, there was a time when, and my brother Jim will tell you, I was a time when I was saying I'm not even going to play the Champions Tour, but obviously I didn't follow that rule very well. I love to play golf. I think here's the thing I like best about golf, is that there's always something to look forward to. There's always a tournament coming up, there's always a course you're going to play, there's always a big thing happening that you're looking forward to. And I think in life, having something to look forward to is a really big deal, I mean, to be able to get up in the morning knowing there's something ahead of you that's important that you're aiming at, really gives you a reason to work hard and to focus and to stay energetic and enthusiastic. So I will quit playing golf either when it becomes no fun and what I have to look forward to doesn't thrill me anymore, or when I'm just so lousy that I can't compete anymore. So I'm still good enough to compete, still good enough to win, so I'll keep on playing. And kind of like I said before, I think God He writes the script, not us. I think that when that time comes, I'll know it, and I'll look back and say, yeah, I can see how I'll develop, and I see where to go, and when that time comes, I'll quit.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Tom, of all the different types of golf shots that you've had to hit through the years, what do you consider to be the toughest shot that you've ever had to make? And frankly, I don't want to hear hitting out of 6 inches of grass after hitting a guy in the leg.
Yeah. Yeah, toughest shot to hit. Well, I think the hardest shot would be like a fairway bunker shot from about 60 yards or 70 yards, something that's not a full swing, it's too far for a blast. It's hard to kind of catch it clean with a sand wedge. So I would say that If you gave me the worst possible shot to have to hit, it would be like in a fairway bunker from 70 yards over water. I'd be scared to death.
Yeah, that's a tough shot.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the impact you may have had or Payne Stewart may have had on you? I read in the Payne Stewart era that you were pretty close, as I recall, and the spiritual impact you had on each other.
Yeah, Payne, I didn't really know Payne very well at all until the last couple of years of his life. So, my circle that I traveled in and played in was far different than his. I mean, he was a star right out of college, and I wasn't. I was on the mini tours for a long time. So by the time I got on the tour, there was a real core group of guys who were really tight. Azinger and Payne Stewart, and guys like that were really tight. I was kind of on the outside looking in and had to kind of work my way into that group. Had to kind of earn their respect. And Payne was always kind of a brash, jokester, confident. You could call him arrogant for sure. Up until that point in his time when he really realized, I think through, for who knows exactly all the things, but he started to kind of take the spiritual side of life way more important. And he still was fun, he still was, confident, he still was all that, but he became way less arrogant and way more, I would say, humble. The pride started disappearing, the humility started showing up, and at that point I got to know him a lot better. And he definitely is a guy that you miss, but he was a combination of saying, like a Phil Mickelson, saying really brash, off-the-charts stuff, and then turning right around in a team meeting talking about how much he misses his father, he wished he could have been here, and start to cry. So he was this combination of the two, which is what I love so much about him, is that he was very, very real, a very real person. Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here, Tom. As a native of Fergus Falls, it's always nice to see someone from the hated rival do well in life.
There we go. Yeah.
Two questions about the tour. One, what are your thoughts on the schedule changes this year with the players going back to March, the PGA to May? And secondly, how are things going at TPC Twin Cities getting ready for July?
Thank you. I think the players going back to March is great. I think it's a better course in March, and I think it sets up the rest of the season better. I think the PGA was always the afterthought of the majors, and that one moving up into that slot in May really helps that tournament a lot. I think having them all done by the middle of July is a good deal for the tour schedule. As terms now, the 3M and TPC Twin Cities, you can't make a course long enough to protect length from those guys, so you have to try to make it tighter, and but the greens are pretty wide, and we did tighten it up, and we did do a few things to try to make it more difficult, but I think you're going to see a birdie show out there. So
I was at the TPC last month for the players, and I agree with you. I think it's a better course in March than it is in May.
Yeah.
And my son-in-law, who is head professional there, agrees.
Oh, wow. Wow, yeah, well, the reason I think it's better at Sawgrass in March is because they play on overseeded grass. In May, they play, the Bermuda comes back in, it's always soft and kind of spongy and a little bit slower. The overseeded, grass in March is firm and fast, and the greens are lightning, it's better. Yes, sir.
Tom, thanks for being here. Golf, for many of us, is a very brutal game from a psychological point of view, and you had some noteworthy disappointments along the way. I still don't know why that putt on 15 didn't go in.
Yeah, me neither.
But how do you recover from that? What were your techniques for recovery from disappointment?
Yeah. To me, the only real disappointment is when you kind of let yourself down by either not being prepared, or you just kind of find a way to not really go for it. I think we've all been through both. I mean, there's times when you go somewhere and you're just not quite prepared, and so you play poorly, and so you kick yourself. That's my fault. There's other times where maybe you just you're a little nervous or whatever, so you kind of hold back a little bit, and then when it's all said and done, you go, man, why don't you just go for it more? And those times I get really angry with myself, and so I try to work really hard at not leaving anything on the table. And so therefore, if I feel like if I really give it my best, and I've every shot I've been totally into it, totally committed, and gave it all I got. You know, I can walk away and be frustrated or disappointed, but still feel good about my performance. So I've always been really good at seeing the glass half full and taking the positives away and then learning from the mistakes, you know, but the only times I ever really kicked myself were the preparation part, or when I really knew, you know, Johnny Miller would say he choked, and everybody's choked a little, you know, where the pressure just kind of made it where you just played too defensively or something, and those are the times that just killed me. And so I think, but that's how you learn. That's how you get over that, because you're sick and tired of that. You don't want to do that anymore, and so you don't do it again. Yep. Thank you.
Let's do one more question, and then after your answer, if you all could not applaud wildly, so I can come up and say a final thank you, and then you can applaud wildly. Okay.
So I'm trying out for my golf team, and I just like you, I find that I'm not perfect at golf, and I was wondering how do you stay in the game mentally? If you have a couple bad shots, how do you recover from that?
That's a great question. First of all, I love your T-shirt.
Thank you.
Everyone loves a brave girl. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, you know, it's hard to overcome being disappointed. You know, sometimes you can get so down on yourself that you just simply can do nothing right. You know, so I try really hard to never ever get to that point. And so what I tend to always do is when things are starting to go poorly, it's like hitting the reset button on your computer or something, or on your, you know, where you're just everything, all the junk in there disappears and you reset it back to the start. You know, so that's what I do. So if I say you're playing in a 9-hole match and you have a bad first hole and you have a bad second hole, it's like I hit the reset button. Okay, now I've got 7 holes left. Okay, all the crap that happened before is gone. It's been trashed. Okay, I'm starting over. So you know, over these next 7 holes, I'm going to set these goals and do this, this, and this, and try to have a fresh attitude. Okay, so the worst thing you can do is let things just compound and compound and compound. So before you know it, you're trying so hard, but you have so much junk on you that you can't do anything. You know, so I try to always just get rid of the bad. Okay, and then start over and refocus on what I want to do ahead of me. Okay, don't think about back there, think about what I want to do over here. So that's how I do it. You know, and then I go back to the basics, just, you know, hit one shot at a time, try to do what I can do. But I think the idea of not carrying bad things with you is really important. You got to find a way to let them go. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, good luck.
Oh, one more? All right, okay. Okay, we'll do one more, and then see if you can follow instructions a little better.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, I didn't think I would mention this, but through a mutual friend, you were honored at the University of Minnesota a couple of years ago, and I had mentioned to you that you had come into town and were qualifying for the U.S. Open, and I happened to be your caddy that day.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And we had a pretty good day. You ended up going on to the next stage. But I mention that because, Tom, my dad was my hero. My dad was my wrestling coach. I wrestled all through college. I was a college wrestling coach. Wow. I officiated college wrestling for 36 years, and now I'm in charge of all the college wrestling officials in the country. I work for the NCAA. So you have a great vibe with wrestlers.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
We love you, and being that the NCAA championships in 2020 will be at US Bank Stadium, if you want to come, let me know. I'll get you in.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
What was the name of that caddy?
I don't know his name.
No, at the Open, who had to open the sea of people for you?
Oh, Kevin Boyles.
Okay, so after I give a little gift to Tom, we're going to try to get him out there where he will, I think, be happy to visit with all you and answer questions one-on-one. So if you all could part the sea as we do that. Again, we're at the end of this year's season. I want to say 2 thank you. First of all, thank you everyone here for coming and continuing to make this series such a vital, important part of our community. I'm grateful to each and every one of you. I'm glad you came out tonight. And Tom, I'm so glad you were willing to join us tonight. And so we have a little memento of your time with us. This is a little piece of granite. I hope it's not too heavy to carry back to Arizona, that says, with thanks to Tom Lehman for bringing faith to life. We thank you so very, very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No. All right, let's walk out. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.